Yo, what's up guys, it's Accept here and welcome back to another video. So today we're doing a top lane tier list for you guys. This is mainly going to be aimed at solo queue, and it's going to basically feature every champion that has been meta in the top lane before, I would argue, or that has been decent in the top lane. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video and let's get straight into it. So already I've prepared a bit here. So not a top laner, never has been. It's basically saying these champions have never been meta in the top lane and you should not play them there. And then we have not in solo queue. These are champions that I believe could be decent in the top lane, but they're not that great if you are not playing in a controlled environment. Anyways, let's get straight into it. I'm just gonna do them in alphabetical order, and I'm gonna try to do this quite quickly. Last time it lasted for quite a bit, and I don't want it to be too long. This champion should be up there as well, not a top lane, never has been. If I miss a champion, I will just put him in during my making of the tier list. Anyways, let's start off Aatrox. So I think Aatrox is probably good or alright. I'll probably put him in alright. So basically what I have is Giga Broken. These are the most OP champions right now and they're quite free low. Giga Broken with high skill. It's like, I think these champions are really good if you're good at them. But you have to be good at them for them to be good. Then we have good, it's basically alright champions. Or pretty good champions. They're not broken, but they're definitely playable and definitely meta. Then we have alright, it's a bit worse. It's either they're decent or not that great, or they're good but with high skill. Then we have kinda shit, and it's just like, yeah, probably not, you know. And then we have torture. Just don't play this champion, okay? But Aatrox, I think he's pretty good, but I think he does require some skill. I'm not sure where I want to place him. I'll probably place him good. I might move him later, but he's probably gonna be somewhere at the bottom of the good. I think he's alright, but he's not that great with compared to some other top laners right now. Then we have Akali. I think Akali is a really good champion. I'm just not sure if she's that great in the top lane. I'm gonna place her probably at alright. She's probably gonna be pretty low in alright because I don't think she's that great top lane. I think she's really good mid lane. But she has a lot of bad matchups in top lane, which severely weakens the champion. Okay, Camille. Now, here, Camille could either be on the top of good or Giga Broken with high skill. Because she's not Giga Broken, I would not argue. Like, she's not up there with some of the other champions, but she is really good. I don't think I can place her on the same tier as Aatrox, but I'm not sure if I can place her at the same tier as some other champions. I'm gonna stick her in Giga Broken Boo with high skill for now. I might move her up to Giga Broken later, but we'll see. Alright, we have Cassiopeia next. I don't think Cassiopeia is that great of a top laner. She's probably going into kinda shit. She might go into Torture even, but I think if you're good at her, you can probably make it work. It could be a lot worse. We have Shogun, this champion goes straight into alright. I mean, what can you say? It's basically, you can't carry the game most of the time, but if your team does well, you're just gonna auto-win the game. So I mean, champion is alright. I don't think too much of him. Darius, I would probably place him in good, I would argue. It's a solo queue tier list, and Darius is usually good in solo queue, obviously. I don't personally think that highly of the champion, but that's because I know how to play against it pretty well. And the champions I play usually do pretty well into Darius as well. But he is a decent champion, and I mean, I think you can make it work definitely if you're good on Darius as well. You can make it pretty high just playing that champion. Alright, Draven, so this is kind of a wild card. I don't think most people would expect this champion in this list, but I think Draven top lane is fairly decent. I know some Koreans play it. I'll probably place it in alright. I'm not really sure because I haven't seen it too much. I'll probably do like this. Something like that. Because I think Draven can probably work. It's definitely a bully, and I mean, it's a lot similar to like Lucian top, for example, I would argue. Alright, Dr. Mundo. This is, for me, a very hard champion to place because I haven't seen him too much right now in the meta. I think he's going at the top of good. I don't know what to say about him. Too much. I think he could probably be better than good, but I haven't seen enough of him. But I'm pretty sure he's not below it, at least, that's for sure. Alright, Fiora. This is a very high skill champion, but I do think the champion is good. She's kind of awkward into some of the champions right now, I would argue, but she's also good into some of them. I would probably place her above Aatrox, but not above Darius, most likely. Alright, Fizz. Now this champion goes straight into the torture. Don't play this champion in the top lane. He used to be meta there once upon a time, but I don't know. I can't remember the last time I saw Fizz stop doing well. Gangplank. Now this champion I think is pretty good. I think Gangplank is one of the strongest champions in the game. I'll probably replace him in Giga Broken with high skill. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me. Probably a lot of Gangplank mates are gonna disagree with me. I think this champion is good. I think the champion is one of the strongest laning champions in the game, and I think he has very high map pressure, and I think he can solo carry games if you get ahead. So I think he's a good solo queue champion for that reason. I know, as I said, I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with me, but that's just what I believe. Alright, sorry for that quick cut, but we're back now. As I said, Gangplank, I think he's good. I think he can solo carry games. I think he's pretty strong. And I'm a Gangplank main myself, so it's not like I'm sitting here just like, Gangplank is such a broken champion. Fuck that. No, I don't really believe that. But I mean, I think the champion can be good. And I think if you're really good at him, you can definitely climb high with him. And we've seen that multiple times before in both Korea and the West. So the champion definitely is good. Now, Garen. I hate Garen. I'm not gonna lie. I think this champion is so garbage. If you can play into it. But a lot of people don't know how to play into it. Which makes the champion pretty good. Because if you don't know how to, he actually becomes pretty decent. Because his numbers are really insane. I'll probably place him at the top of alright. I don't want to place him in good. I don't think he deserves that. Because the thing is with Garen, if you just don't stand in his E, he auto loses every trade. It's just how the champion works. If he doesn't have his E, he just can't win. So if he's playing a matchup that can kite him, he auto loses. If he plays into a champion that can easily avoid his E and then engage on him, he loses. Like, as long as you don't get hit by his E, you auto win. But a lot of people still manage to die to him. I've had games where I solo kill him twice, and then my jungler comes top and he tries to solo Garen and he just gets one-shotted by Garen, and then Garen is back in the game, you know. But I think the champion, I mean, as I said, he has insane numbers, but I don't think he's that great, if you know how to play into it. Now, next up is Gnar. I'm not sure what I feel about Gnar. I think he could be decent for solo queue. He's a good early game champion, he kind of scales off, but he does have some good engage. I'll probably place him at the bottom good. I'm not sure what I feel about this champion too much. Gragas. Now, I'm not a big fan of Gragas. The reason being, I just feel like... I don't know what to say about him, really. I mean, it's a tank, right? Like, that's what it is. It's a tank in the top lane, and what do you feel about tanks in the top lane? I mean, he's kind of like Shogun, right? Like, I mean, if Shogun is alright, he's probably alright as well. I would place him at the same spot as him. Alright, next up we have Graves. Graves is a good top laner for sure, right now especially. He's good into some of the beta top laners. I wouldn't place him in Giga Broken with high skill, but I'd probably place him at the top of good. He might not be better than Mundo, I'm not sure. But I think he's a good champion, especially in the right matchup. But a lot of the time, I don't think you just can't play him because you want to play him, right? That's one problem with Graves. But he can be alright for sure. Alright, next up we have Hecarim. Now, Hecarim is either going into kinda shit or torture. I'm not sure which one. I'll probably place him in torture because I never see the champion in the top lane anymore. So it's kinda hard to place him in any other tier. I mean, he can probably work if you make him work, but I mean, I haven't seen him in a while. And I don't think he's meant to be a top laner. He used to be a top laner once upon a time, hence why he's in this tier list, but I don't think he's that great. Next up we have Heimerdinger. Now I think Heimerdinger might be the most underrated champion, probably in top lane. Like, one of the most underrated. He always has high win rate, I feel like. But the thing is with Heimerdinger is like no one plays him, it's only one tricks, right? Hence why he probably has high win rate at the same time. But I do think this champion can be really good. Whenever I play into Heimerdinger, he always monkey pushes, right? He just pushes. And if you just let him push and then you farm on a tower, and sure, you probably take some poke from him. But if you do it well, it will probably go decent. If you get a gank, he'll probably die because he's Heimerdinger. He doesn't have any... Like, his only potential is to stand around his towers and try to kill both. But that usually doesn't happen in the top lane. So I think if a good Heimerdinger plays this champion, he can be really insane. This champion has so much push potential, he's so easy to get power with. I mean, this champion could be like not in solo queue, because I don't know. But I think I'm gonna place him in alright. He'd probably go above Shogun and Gragas. I think he's a good champion. Probably one of the most underrated in the game. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Good champion. He should be playing more, I think. Alright, next up we have Ilaoi. No, I don't think Ilaoi is that good. I'm probably gonna place her in kind of shit above Cassiopeia. The reason why I don't think is, I mean, she just gets countered by everything, right? Like, when have you ever gone like, ah, this is a pretty good Ilaoi game? I guess if you're playing against 5 melees and you have a really good matchup in the top lane, then I guess she kind of can work. But I don't see why you wouldn't just pick Darius then, or Mundo, or Aatrox, or anything. Because there's so many champions that does exactly what Ilaoi wants to do, but just better. I don't get why you would pick this champion ever, unless you really find her enjoyable. If so, then that's fine. Like, it's alright to play champions you find enjoyable because it's a game at the end of it, but I don't think she's that great. Next up, we have Aurelia, and this is probably the hardest champion for me to place on this list because I haven't seen too much of her. It's a new patch. She just got a slight rework, not a rework, but I mean she got some pretty big changes. Um, from what I've seen from her, she seems strong, but I've only seen her in the mid lane. I would imagine she faces around the same problems that she had in the top lane before. That if a bruiser plays well into her, she can probably get outplayed pretty hard. But at the same time, if you're really good at her, like I'll probably place her somewhere in alright, because I have a hard time seeing she's as bad as these two champions, but I also have a hard time seeing she's as good as some of these champions, right? She probably can be good. I think the changes probably made her good again, but it's really hard to say. Alright, next up we have Jarvan. I'll probably place him in kind of shit or torture. I mean, torture is a fair assessment, I think, but there's like a few players I would argue that plays this champion still. I don't know, I don't think that highly of the champion. It's just not a top laner, right? If it's not a top lane, you probably should go here, to be fair. It's kind of hard for me to place him kind of shit, right? Because I haven't seen him like 2 seasons since he was played like in LC. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Not the greatest top laner. He might be able to work if you pull it off, but yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Alright, next up we have Jax. I think for me Jax goes in the top of kind of shit. The thing is with Jax for me is that I don't think Jax is that great of a champion. Like, all honesty, I think he just does like. The thing is with Jax is that split pushes don't work in this meta, right? Like Fiora doesn't work either really, but she can like at least team fight. Like she has that potential. I don't. When I look at a Jax, I don't see any team fight potential, right? It's like a he that just doesn't deal damage for me. Like I don't know what to say about this champion. I don't think it's that impressive. I think he gets shed on by a lot of champions. Just not impressed by the champion at all. I think he quite deservedly should be in kind of shit because the champion doesn't really work in this meta. Whenever I face it, I feel like, why am I facing a Jax? The champion is so weak. Next up, we have Jace. Now, Jace, I think, is one of the strongest champions in the game. For me, it just goes probably above GP here. Giga broken, but with high skill for sure. I mean, everyone knows Jace is one of the champions with high skill. But the thing is with Jace, right? If in solo queue especially, if you fall behind, you're gonna have a problem. And if enemy jungler wants you to fall behind, and your jungler don't give a shit, like you're probably gonna fall behind as well. If he gets ahead, I think he one-shots everyone on the map a lot of the time if you're good at him. That's what I do at least when I play Jace. Anytime I feel like I'm even or get ahead, I can just do whatever I want. And a lot of the time when I get to play a 1v1 and get to go even, I usually go ahead in CS as well because it's a range champion in the top lane, right? The champion I think is really strong, his scaling is really strong, his early game isn't that great anymore as it used to be, but he's still a range top laner, so it doesn't really matter. I think Jace is a good champion. As I said, I think he has high skill. I don't think he's as broken as some few other champions, but I do think he's really good. Okay, next up is Kalista, and I haven't seen her in a while. She goes at the bottom of kind of shit. I could probably place her down in Torture, but I do think this champion has quite a bit of potential as well. So that's why she goes in kind of shit. Karma, now this champion is mainly a champion for team play, I think, but I do think she can be alright in solo queue as well. She's probably gonna go around here. I think that's fine. Like, I think Karma can be decent, especially in a good matchup. Like, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it really a lot of times enables your team to carry as well, right? If you like, you're kind of relying on decent teammates, but I mean, at the end of it, you're kind of relying on decent teammates, whatever you do. If you get a completely shit team, it is what it is. If you get at least one, like if your ADC is good and you play Karma, right, you can at least support that guy, right? And really open that guy up for carry potential. And also in laning phase, it's not like you're a weak champion or anything. You still really put pressure on the enemy top laners a lot of the time. Now, Karthus, I think Karthus can be good in top lane, but not in solo queue probably. In solo queue, probably goes. He definitely goes below Jarvan. Hickram should be higher up on this list as well. I think this is a fair assessment. I mean, I think, as I said, he can probably be decent, but it's kind of hard to pull off in solo queue. He's very similar to Jace in the early game, that he just gets bullied, but compared to Jace, he can't run face rush. And also, I don't know what really to say about him. He doesn't really bully or anything. It's just like, when you look at the champion, he wasn't meant to be a top laner, right? I think he can be decent in a really good matchup. It's kind of like in the same position as Kale, I would argue. If you play against something like an Ornn or something and really can pull it off, then I think it's fine. I think he can be pulled off. But I don't see why you would ever play Corpus then and not Kale, you know? Alright, next up, Kassadin. I mean, it has the same problem, right? I think he can be decent into some AP champions, especially if you're playing against a Karma or something, but who the fuck blinds Karma top? That's the problem. I'll probably place him below Jarvan, above Heck Ramming kind of shit, or in Torch Ramming. I mean, I think the champion can be decent if you play him top lane, if you have a good matchup for it. But you have to have a really good matchup for it, because he gets shit on by a lot of top laners. Alright, next up we have Kayle. I think Kayle is a good champion. I think she's a better mid laner than she's a top laner, probably. But I do think she's a good champion. Like, in my opinion, she probably goes above most of these champions. Like, she probably goes, like, here. The problem with Kayle, right, is that she gets shit on in the early game. But if you get past the early game, like even if you just get to level 6, like in solo queue, you really open up yourself, right? Because a ranged top laner, it's kind of like Jace in the same. Like, even though Jace is really weak in early game, like if you just play it correctly, no one is gonna be able to touch you. I feel like the same with Kayle, except Kayle has to wait till level 6, right? But the thing is, up until level 6, it takes like around 6 minutes to get to that point. If you, like, let's say you actually just had to give every minion, that would be 60 CS, and that's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty bad. But the thing is with Kayle is that you can really farm a lot later on, and you're not gonna miss 60 CS, let's be honest. At most, you're probably gonna miss 30 CS. So let's say you miss 30 CS, that's still a fine position because your champion scales so well. And you, like, I think the champion is good. Like, I don't know what else to say. Now, Kane, I mean, this is a champion once again I haven't seen in a while. He wasn't that like that sorry, he wasn't meta for that long. I think the champion is alright. But I haven't seen him top lane, and I would imagine he would get shit on by Viego, like Gwen, everything, Nocturne. So I would imagine he gets shit on by these champions. He probably goes into Torture. And I don't have much else to say about that. Next up we have Cannon. Now, Cannon is an interesting champion because not a lot of people play the champion anymore. But I do think he can be alright. He probably, as I said, goes in alright. I think the champion is alright. I'll probably place a call down in now as well, because we're kind of filling this up too much. I mean, as I said, he can be alright. Not much else to say. Next up we have Kindred, and I love Kindred top. I think Kindred top is a good champion. Now, the problem with Kindred top, right, is, I mean, she faces the same problem as something like Jace does, right? If your jungler doesn't play around you and the enemy does play around top lane, you have a problem, right? Because a champion like Kindred is really vulnerable in the early game, and you really don't want to fall behind on a champion like Kindred. I'll probably place her in, like, if Draven is here, right, I think she should be here as well. Because I do think she's a lot similar to, like, something like Vayne top as well. The only problem with her is that she doesn't get some marks, like, she doesn't get that many marks, right? But I mean, the last time I played Kindred top, I got a lot of marks as well, and her ultis is completely insane. Her kit is really good for, like, for countering a lot of top lane champions. I think she can be alright. I think she can be a lot better than alright as well if you play it well. But I think she does have some reliance on your team in solo queue, and I don't think putting reliance on your team in solo queue is that great most of the time. Alright, next up we have Kled, and I mean, I'm known for playing a lot of Kled. What do I think about Kled? I don't think Kled is that great, but I think he's alright for solo queue. I'll probably place him. I mean, he's a lot similar to like Darius and Atox, right? I'm not sure if he goes above or below it. Darius, I'll probably place him below because I think he's a bit hard to pull off. But I think he's decent for sure. I mean, the problem with me when playing Kled a lot of the time, like if I play in a team environment, I just don't see why I would ever pick Kled because the games where I can pick Kled, I could just pick something else and be better on it. Like the few times where you can pick a champion like Kled or Darius, like why would you pick something like them and not something like Camille or like you get it, you get my point. Like why would I ever pick this champion instead of any other champion, basically? Like unless I'm playing against like Swain or something, but Swain doesn't get played in the top lane anymore, right? So that's the problem. Alright, now next up we have Lee Sin. Now I'm not sure what I think about Lee Sin because I kind of missed out on the meta where he was a top laner and a mid laner, but I still think he's really good in top lane. He probably goes into Giga Broken with 5 skill. I'm not sure if he probably goes above Camille. Because I kind of feel like it's hard to put him in Giga Broken, but he is really strong. And when I play it in top lane as well, I do feel the strength of it for sure. It's not a bad champion at all. It's definitely decent to good. Alright, next up we have Lucian. Now Lucian is a hard champ to place because it's a situational champ for sure. Like you really need the matchup to be good, right? I think the champion is good, especially in like team play. I'll probably place him at like around here or something. Draven might be getting moved down because we don't see that champion too much. And as I said, I don't want to place too many champions in all right because I kind of want it to even out. I guess it makes sense to place him there still because in the end, all right means champions that you can play. But I mean, you either gotta be good at them or they're not like or they're below average, right? But I think Lucian top is good, but it's really matchup dependent for sure. If you're good at it, I don't see why you wouldn't play it a lot of the time because it is strong. The champion deals a lot of damage and it can really catch a lot of people off guard in solo queue, especially. But as I said, it has the same problem as like Jace and Kindred and everything like that. It relies heavily on your team. If you get pressured a lot in the early game and you lose your lane and you go behind, your champion is essentially not a champion anymore. And yeah, it's really easy to catch you off guard as well. Or not catch you off guard, but really like bully you in the early game if you get ganked a lot. Alright, next up we have Lulu. Now Lulu I like, but not in solo queue most of the time. She probably goes into the bottom kind of shit or not in solo queue. But she does have the availability to be played in solo queue as well, so she should definitely be on this list, I would argue. Anyways, I don't have much else to say about her. I mean, she plays for her team, right? And for me, she's just a bit more of a shitty Karma, in all honesty. I mean, I guess she enables your ADC more, but Karma is a lot stronger champion, especially in the early game, and just overall, I would argue. Next up, we have Malphite. Malphite is probably better than like Shogun and Gragas that we had in tanks, so I'll probably place him in good. I don't think he's the best champion, but I don't think he's the worst either. Next up, we have Maokai. I mean, the thing is with Maokai is, I mean, I haven't seen this champion in so long, right? I mean, this champion could go into torture for sure. Because any time I play against a Maokai, I have the time of my life. I get to do anything I want. I just run around the map, like looking like a fool. It's so much fun to play against it because he's so weak. He probably goes into torture. It's hard to not place him there with how bad the champion is. Alright, next up we have Mordekaiser. I mean, the thing is with Mordekaiser is, I mean, I think he's a bad champ. I don't know what to say about this champ. I think if you can rush Ninjatabis in a Bruiser matchup and then survive until you get to like level 9 or something, he can be alright. But I mean, even in team fights, like what purpose do you fill? Because if enemy ADC like builds a QSS, all of a sudden you're just low-key useless. Like, I don't like this champ. He goes probably somewhere around here, probably above Cassiopeia because he's not that shit. But I mean, he has the same problem as Ilawa a lot of time as well. Like, why would he ever pick this champ? I don't get it. Like, if you enjoy it, sure, go for it. I don't think he's that good, though. Next up, we have Nasus. I mean, Nasus goes into Torture as well, for sure. Like, I think it's worse than Kassadin top, probably. Because anytime I play against Nasus, he either faces the problem that he dies in the early game because like he just can't lane. Like even if I'm playing Club and I push in the Nasus and I'm level 3 and he's level 3, I will just dive him. Like because he's a lot of the time gonna be on 70% HP or something. And the thing is he can't do anything about it. Like that's the truth. The champion can't fight back. You're literally one-1ing basically a tower with a lot less HP. It's how it feels like to play against. I don't think the champion is good at all. And the thing is, when I don't kill him in top lane, like let's say I'm playing like GP or something, and he somehow survives because he plays it well. Even then, I feel like he doesn't do anything during the entire game. It doesn't matter how many stacks he has if you can just kite him out. It's kind of like the same problem with Garen. Like I feel like Nasus in the late game has pretty good numbers, but the thing is with Nasus, if he just the thing is he doesn't catch anyone if you play it correctly. And if a champion like Nasus doesn't catch anyone, he's completely useless, right? Like he's just a slow bot, basically. I don't know what if like I don't see why you would ever want to pick this champion. Like it's as I said, it's probably just torture to play. Next up we have Nautilus. Now this isn't a top laner either anymore, so he probably goes in the bottom anyway. Off here. Not much else to say. I mean, he might be able to go above Fizz or something, but I don't know. Don't think the champion is very good. Don't think you should play top lane at all. Next up we have Nico. Now, Nico is a good champion for sure. She bullies a lot of melee champions, especially, I would argue. Hence why she can be really good in the top lane. Now she faces, once again, some of the same problems as something like Lucian, that she kind of relies on your team. But she doesn't do it to the same degree because she does have some movement speed. She does have a root. She does have outplay potential. She does have a lot of damage. A lot of time you can really poke your enemy out and then just escape a gank because the jungler tries to 1v1 you, but you just CC him and the top laner can't do anything about it. I think the champion is good for sure. I think she probably goes somewhere above Aatrox right here. Like I think she might be one of the more underrated top laners for sure. Because against some matchups she just has the time of her life, right? I don't know what to say about her though. Like, I don't think the champion is the greatest. I don't think she's the worst. Now, next up we have Nidalee. Now, Nidalee, I love playing Nidalee top, especially AD Bruiser, but I don't think it's that great. I think Nidalee Bruiser top, up until second item, is really strong. Like, actually good. Like, and she's really strong in the early game. She really pokes the enemy out, and it's really hard for the enemy to play a lot all the time. But the problem with Nidalee top is that once you reach your second item, you're basically useless a lot of the time. Like, or I guess when enemy reaches second item, right? Because you could be full build if the enemy doesn't have any items, it's still gonna be like, of course. But you get my point. The thing is, she doesn't scale good at all. I've been thinking about some transitions with her, maybe like if, or maybe some different items. I think she has some potential to play with Witsend and Divine Sunder. I'll probably personally place her in the bottom of kind of shit. I have a hard time placing her in Torture because I think this champion has the potential to be good if you, but it's a very, like, very hard champ to play. It's very high skill, and it doesn't reward that much. Like I think if you crack the code, I think the champion has a lot of potential. Like there is something there. Anytime I play it, I can feel it. Like up until you get Divine Sunder, you feel so powerful. When you get 11, you feel powerful, and after that, you just kind of start feeling like shit. Anyways, I mean, I don't know what else to say about the champion. I have an AD Bruiser Nidalee guide coming sometime soon. We'll see when that is, probably in the next coming days. But the champion is very hard to play, and it isn't that rewarding. It's definitely worse than a lot of other champions on here. Next up, we have Nocturne. Nocturne is the first champion to go into Giga Broken for sure. I mean, this champion is just really insane. Like, I don't think this even comes to any, like a surprise to any of you that play the game right now. The champion is like, he trades with HP and not mana. Like, it's impossible to win trades against him. Even if you do win the trade, he heals it up again. Like, the champion is absurd. Like, and the Strikebreaker combo with his ult is just so powerful on him. Like, he basically immobilizes an ADC and then he's fearsome and then they die, basically. The champion is really powerful. Like, probably, like, he's one of the strongest champions in the game, not his top lane for sure. The champion is really insane. Next up, we have Olaf. I don't know what to feel about Olaf, because I thought this champion was really bad before. And now I've seen Adam play it in top lane for Fnatic, like, a lot of games, and he's been doing really well. And it's hard to place this champion in, like, torture kind of shit anymore, because I see the potential of the champion now. I think he's going into alright, because I think he can be good, but he's really high skill, I think. Like, and it sounds weird to say that a champion that throws an axe and then right clicks on someone is high skill, but he definitely is, because you really have to know how to play this champion and you have to know your strengths really well. He's probably going. I think he's more relevant than Gary, like, in all honesty. So I'm gonna place him above this, at the top of all right. I think he can be good, but I think there's a big difference between someone who starts to play Olaf and someone who has played a lot of games on Olaf. Like, you can really see the difference between day and night, because I've played against players who, even after 200 games on Olaf, I just beat them without problem. But then I've seen, like, some players that really know how to play Olaf and they really shit on people. I think this champion is potentially one of the stronger ones. He has really insane numbers, and if you combo it up with the right other champions, like, he can be really strong for sure. Alright, next up we have Ornn. I mean, I don't see why you would pick Ornn instead of Gragas and Shogun. He's just kind of a shit version of those two. I'll probably place him quite far down in, or not quite far down, but somewhere in kind of shit. He's probably better than Jax, because Jax is just not a champion, I would argue. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't see why you would pick this like, why you would pick Ornn instead of Malphite or Gragas or Shogun or any other tank, right? Because this is a worse version of those champions. I mean, the one thing that he does get is he gets the upgrades, right? Which is good. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty decent. But it's not game breaking. You don't win the game because of it. And except for that, he's just a worse version of, like, the other tanks. So I don't see why you would pick him. Next up, we have Pantheon. I don't think Pantheon top is that great. He probably goes somewhere into kind of shit as well. Probably above Ilawa or something. I'm not really sure where to place this champion, to be honest, because I don't see this champion too much anymore, in top lane especially. I think he has a lot of bad matchups. I think he can be decent as a support or as a mid laner. Otherwise, I don't see this champion have too much potential. The champion can be good. I just don't think he's that great. Alright, next up we have Poppy, and Poppy is an interesting champion because she's a tank, but she's a tank who focuses on disengage compared to most other tanks who focuses on engage, right? I think Poppy has some potential. I just don't think you should pick her in top lane too much, because she has a lot of bad matchups in the top lane, first of all. And Poppy doesn't need farm at all. She don't care about resources, so why place her in a lane where she can, like, get like, if it's a good Poppy game, you should just play Poppy support. That's the point, right? I don't think she's that great. I think she has some potential, because her kit, especially her W and ult, are really good. But I just don't see why you would need to play her in top lane then. Alright, next up we have Pyke. Now, Pyke used to be a top laner for a while there, until they nerfed his kit to the ground to not be a laner or jungler anymore, which I see why they did. He's basically going somewhere down here in torture. Now, I mean, these champions aren't maybe the best listed, like, from best to worst. But I mean, you get the point. You shouldn't be playing, like, you shouldn't be playing Maokai or Nautilus, no matter how good they are on the torture list. I mean, the things with Pyke, right, is he has no wave clear. He doesn't have trading potential. He just doesn't have anything, right? He doesn't belong in the top lane. I could kind of see how it works in mid lane some cases, but I mean, in top lane, it's like you'd probably play him because you're facing a Karma top and you don't care if she gets ahead, so you just perma roam the entire game. That's the only way you can see it working ever. Next up, we have Quinn. Now, I don't see why you would want to pick Quinn instead of any of the other ADCs on this list, but I could see the potential of her sometimes into, like, Renekton and shit. So she probably goes into kind of shit, and she probably goes below. She probably goes below Mordekaiser, to be honest. I don't think too much of this champion. The thing is with Quinn is that whenever I play it, I feel like she either doesn't take enough or doesn't deal enough damage, or she takes too much damage. I don't know what to say about her really. Even in matchups like when I play GP, I don't think it's too hard to play against the champion because I don't think the champion is good at all. Next up we have Renekton, and I'm gonna be honest, I hate Renekton with all my heart. I don't think he's that great of a champion, but I do think he has some solo queue potential, that's for sure. In solo queue, the champion does work because it's a very early game champion, and early game champions are definitely decent in solo queue. Hence why he probably goes fairly high. He might go above Darius and Kled. I have a hard time, I feel like Darius, Kled, and Aatrox are all very similar champions. I have a hard time listing them from best to worst. I think probably Darius right now is the best. I'm not sure if Kled or Renekton goes second. I want to place Kled higher because I think Kled has some potential, after laning phase in a way. They're both probably equally strong if Renton isn't stronger in the early game maybe. Like it depends on the matchup I think mainly. But later on I think Kled has some more engaged tools and I think he has some more tools overall, I would argue. I think Renekton's W is a strong skill for sure later on in the game because it's very similar to Maokai. Like Maokai's whole purpose was to flash W's on him, right? That's the same purpose with Renekton. He flash W's on the enemy ADC and you hope you burst her. Or him. Alright, next up we have Rengar. Rengar is an interesting champion for sure. He's a decent solo queue champion. I don't think too highly of him. But I do think he can be alright. I'm not sure where in alright, especially exactly. Probably somewhere around here. The champion is, as I said, he can be decent. You kind of rely on playing against a top laner who doesn't know what he's doing, or playing a really good matchup. One of those two. But as I said, he can be alright. I don't know what to say about the champion. He's fine. He has some roaming potential as well. He can impact the map. Yeah. If I'm playing against a Rengar, I will just stay away from the bushes, right? And try to poke him out whenever he jumps out to grab CS. But if it's a good Rengar, it's not the easiest to do a lot of the time. As I said, I think the champion can be good. Let's just move on to Riven then. And I'm not sure what I think about Riven. I think she's good. She's probably Giga broken, but with high skill. Because anytime I play against this champion, I feel like her numbers are so insane. I play against her with Kled and I just can't win against her. I play, the thing is, I don't know really. She probably goes above GP in solo queue. I don't think she goes above Jace. But I do think she has a lot of potential because I think she catches a lot of people off guard, especially with how strong she actually is in the early game now. Compared to, because I never thought of her as an early game champion. I thought of her more of a mid game champion, or especially early mid game champion. But I don't know. I think the champion is good. She procs Conquer very easily, which is obviously a good rune. She wins a lot. I don't know what to say about her. She's pretty good. And if you're really good at her, she can have some insane potential. I'm not sure how she does into champions like Gwen or Viego or even Nocturne. It's hard to say, but I do think the champion is good for sure. She does have good win rates as well, so to back it up. So, anyways, let's move on. Rumble. I think Rumble has some. If in a decent matchup, Rumble is a good champion. I think in a bad matchup, Rumble is a really bad champion. So he probably goes somewhere in the middle, into alright or good. I'll probably place him at the bottom of good because I like Rumble. I think he's a good champion. As I said, in a good matchup, he's one of the strongest champions in the game because in a good matchup, he can basically do whatever he wants. Even in an even matchup, if you're good at Rumble, he can do a lot. In a bad matchup, let's say you're playing as a Riven, you just go FF, I'll be honest. He just played. He doesn't have that many bad matchups, which is good for him, obviously. But the matchups he does have that are bad are pretty fucking bad. Alright, next up we have Rice. I don't know what I feel about Rice, to be honest. I love playing Rice, but he just doesn't feel like he's not a top laner, right? He probably goes in the bottom of kind of shit because if you do have a really good matchup, you can't play it. I wouldn't recommend doing it though. The problem with Rice a lot of the time is he's just. It's once again, he's the same problem as Jace or any other ranged squishy champions. except he doesn't have mobility, and the champion auto pushes with his kit because if he wants to trade, he has to push. And the thing is, I don't see why you would ever pick Rice instead of like, if you can pick Nico, why would you pick Rice, right? If you can't pick Rumble, why would you pick Rice? It's like kind of those problems, right? I think the champion is really good in the mid lane. I think he has some potential in the jungle with the new build or the new strategy. But I do not think he has that much potential in the top lane, sadly, anymore. Especially not after they removed Rod of Ages and Surf's or reworked Surface Embrace in the preseason. Next up we have Sejuani. I don't know what I feel about her. She probably goes above Maokai. I don't know what to say about her otherwise. She's a CC bot, right? So she can be decent if it's a decent matchup, but I mean, I never see her, so it's kind of hard for me to place her. Next up we have Senna. I feel like I shouldn't have put Senna on this list. Now when I think of it, as I said earlier, if I do miss a champion that's not a top laner, then that's my bad. I'll place him like during this list. Senna shouldn't be on this list. Anyways, let's move on. Set. Now I'm not sure what I feel about Set. I really like Set, but I'm not sure how good he is because there was a time where everyone considered Set to be a weak top laner, and then all of a sudden he gets played all like again. And the great thing about Set, he's very similar to champions like Renekton and Kled, in a way that he's really strong in the early game, and he provides a lot of setup. That's like the good things about him. I think he probably is better than Darius and Kled, or not Darius, but I mean Renekton and Kled, right? Because he does the same thing as him in the early game, but he just provides so much more setup later on in the game, and he's naturally more tanky as well, I would argue. I think this champion has a potential. Like, he's not broken, for sure not. He's probably below Mundo. I think the champion is good, but it's very hard for me to place him, because for no reason whatsoever, all of a sudden everyone considers Set went from Set being considered a shit champ to a decent champ, and I'm not really sure why. It's probably like I imagine a lot of people just realized it was kind of strong in the early game if you played it right, so everyone just started liking it more. I don't think it's. I mean, in solo queue it's good, right? Otherwise, I don't know what to feel about it. All right, next up we have Shen. I feel like Shen should go into Giga Broken. He's definitely better than the good champions. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say. He's definitely a good champion. And he's definitely good for solo queue as well. I used to think that Shen was the worst champion in solo queue, like ever, because the whole purpose of Shen is that you concede your entire laning phase in order to like improve your like teammates laning phase, and you like put all the like eggs in their basket in order for them to carry, which is not a concept I like when playing solo queue. But recently, I mean, he's not like because the champion is kind of strong anyways, even if you get stuff off helping your teammates as well, like the champion doesn't actually concede his laning phase like I felt like he used to. So I think the champion is good. The thing is, when I play something like one thing I like playing is Shen, right? Because I play Jace and GP and stuff like that. And when I play champions like that, I just want to scale. And if he ults away and I get 3 plates, I'm pretty happy, you know. But I do see like how he could be really strong, especially into these early game champions that really want to fight and snowball off him. And then he just ults away, and they're like, "Oh, what do we do now?" You know. And he just like buffs up his entire team, and the rest of their team falls behind. I think he's really good. That's my point, especially into early game champions. In late game champions, he's a bit worse, but he's still good. Next up, we have Shyvana. I feel like Shyvana should go into Torture. Not much else to say. She's not really a top laner anymore. She used to be once upon a time. Not really anymore. Next up, we have Singed. And I think Singed has some potential, but not that much. He probably goes like above Cassiopeia or something. Kind of shit. I mean, the champion can be good in some matchups, but I mean, a lot of the time he's just bad. We've already gone for quite some time, so I'm gonna try to speed on these a lot. Sion, next up. I think he's very similar to like Sho'gaf and Gragas. I do think he's a better champion than those though, so I'm gonna put him a bit higher now, right? I feel like he has some carry potential of himself, and he's a very strong laning champion as well. That's why he goes fairly high. He could even be like on the Malphite level. I think that's a fair assessment, to be fair. Next up we have Skarner. I think Skarner goes into the bottom of kind of shit. He's not like on torture level, I wouldn't argue, because he's still a CC bot, so he has some potential later on. But in the end, he's an early game champion who can't really do a lot during laning phase in top lane. That's the problem with him. Swain next up. Swain used to be a top laner once upon a time, but he's not really anymore. He probably goes into the top of torture, I want to say. The thing is with Swain is that he's super weak. Anytime I play against him, I have the time of my life. He doesn't deal any damage. And yeah, you just get to do whatever you want, basically. And he doesn't scale that well either, so I don't know why you want to play him, you know. Alright, next up we have Silas. I don't know what to say about Silas in top lane. I think he has the same problem as Akali. He's just not a top laner. He goes probably into the same tier. He could go above or below. I think Akali is probably the strongest champion overall right now in the meta. Hence why I place Silas below her. Alright, then we have Temkench. Now, Temkench has some insane win rates right now. And I'm not sure where to place him because I haven't seen him too much, but the champion probably goes into the top good. He has the potential maybe to go, like, the same thing with Mundo, as I said. If I had seen him more, like, I think the worst thing he could be is, like, on the top of good, but I think he has the potential to be giga broken with high scale, or like, you get my point. He has the potential to be a top tier champion, for sure. Next up we have Teemo. I'm not sure what to think about the champion. We don't see him too much. I think he's an alright champion, if he's played correctly, and if he has a good matchup for it. Otherwise, not sure what to think. Tristana. Now, I think Tristana is, once again, an underrated top laner. The thing is with Tristana, is that whenever I play against her, I hate it. With all my heart. It's so annoying to play against. Like, you can't contest prio, because she automatically pushes all the time. You can't walk up to the wave, because she one-shots you. I don't know what to say about this champion. She just feels so insane. She has a screen dash, so you can't even gank her. Like, the champion is good. It's one of the most underrated champions in top lane for sure. And I'm glad I never see this champion, because it's so damn annoying to play against. I'll probably place her. Like, she doesn't, like, the things with her is she doesn't face the same problems as some of these other champions, because she doesn't fall behind. She's a very safe champion with how long her dash is. Obviously she doesn't want to get zoned off CS because she's still a bully and she still wants to take plates and whatever. But I do think she's like up here for sure. She might be bottom of good even. I think I'm gonna place her there. I think that's a fair assessment. Next up we have Trundle. Now, I'm not sure what to think about this champion because he's kind of a champion that relies on base damage without really having that good base stats. Like, yeah, he's not as shit as some of these kind of shit champions. He probably goes like around here, I would argue. He's definitely not alright. He's definitely not torture. I mean, in a good matchup, I could see how it works. In a matchup that isn't that great, like, you get my point. I don't think that highly of the champion, but I feel like he has some potential. Now, next up we have Tryndamere. Tryndamere is a really good champion, I'm gonna be honest. If you can play Tryndamere, he's one of the strongest champions in the game. I would argue that's. I mean, I'm gonna place him at Giga Broken with high skill, especially in low relo, of course. He's really good. I mean, he has the potential to solo carry games, and a lot of top laners don't have that potential a lot of the time. I'm not sure if I can place him above these other champions in Giga Broken, but with high skill. But he is a really good champion, for sure. Next up we have Udyr. I mean, Udyr is one of the champions I might not place like on this list, but I feel like he has been a top laner once upon a time. He's probably gonna go at the bottom of kind of shit. I don't think highly of that champion, but I think he can be decent probably in some matchups. Yeah, don't know what else to say. Then we have Urgot. Now the thing is with Urgot is that I hate Urgot. I've always thought of the champion as not that great. I think if you can get to team fights, I think the champion all of a sudden is pretty strong. Because later on in the game, his stats are really insane. He kind of becomes an unkillable monster that just rolls around the enemy team. He definitely got hit by the stride breaker changes, I would argue, because the dash was fairly important to him. But I do think the champion is still good. He probably goes I mean, I would probably place him above Aatrox, in my opinion, but not above Nico. I think Nico might be below Fiora as well. But anyways, you get my point. Urgot can be a decent champion, especially in good matchups, especially in good games. His ult resets are really good, obviously. I mean, the champion has a lot of potential. If you know how to play lane phase with him, he's definitely a good champion. Next up, we have Vayne. Now, Vayne's obviously faces some of the problems that Draven and Kindred faces, etc. I think she's a bit worse than those champions, to be honest. So I'm gonna place her probably below Warren and Trundle or something like that. I just don't see this champion being played too much. I don't think she's that great. I just for one reason as well, I don't see why would ever want to pick Vayne instead of Kindred. Probably because Vayne is known to be like playable in top lane and Kindred is not. Alright, next up we have Victor. He used to be meta and he used to be really good. I don't think he's that good anymore. He probably goes into the top of Torture or the bottom kind of shit. The point is you should not play this champion at least. Hence why I place him in Torture, I guess. Next up we have Vladimir. Now Vladimir, I don't know what to feel about this champion. I feel like he has some really good matchups and he has some really bad matchups. If you're really good on Vladimir, he can really scale well. But the problem with Vladimir scaling is he's not even that great after he has scaled. That's his big problem, I would say. He probably goes fairly far down on kind of shit. Like, I don't know. I don't think highly of this champion. I think he can be decent. I just don't think it's that decent. And the problem with Vladimir as well is he kind of has to concede lane phase. And why would you want to concede lane phase with a champion like Vladimir when you can pick something like Kayle? Alright, next up we have Bolivir. Bolivir is a very interesting champion to me because the thing is with him, he's first of all his stats are really insane. I mean, then he works really well with Divine Sunroof, which is a broken item right now, and then he always gets private. It doesn't matter what you do, he always pushes, which is really powerful. Obviously, it's a really good tool. It can also be a weak tool because it makes you vulnerable to ganks, but I think the champion is decent. I'm not sure why he stopped being played in the top lane. He's probably gonna go into like somewhere around here and good for me because I do think the champion is alright. Alright, next up we have Warwick, and Warwick is a really interesting champion for me. I don't know really what to think about this champion because when I play against him, he has some really good stats, to be honest. He's really good in the first few levels, like even to like level 11, I feel like he's a pretty strong champion. He's kind of becomes useless after that. This is his problem. I feel like he can go into the bottom of alright. Like, I actually don't feel like he's that shit. Surprisingly enough. Like, I definitely feel like he can win games with Warwick top in solo queue. It's like, it's sometimes, like, even when I play Kled, like, I play Kled and I have 60% healing reduction on my Q, and Warwick still wins trades, and he still heals like crazy. Like, the champion is really good on stats, for sure. But, I mean, as I said, he doesn't really last throughout the game. Alright, next up we have Wukong. I like Wukong a lot. He has good win rates right now. I would argue he's pretty good. I would maybe argue he's giga broken, but maybe not. Like I would argue he's as good as these champions, but not with high skill, right? I mean, maybe we rename this less giga broken or something. Giga broken but less. Yeah, that's the one. That's one. I think he's good. Not that great. Next up we have Seraph. He should not be a top laner, obviously. Alright, then we have Shin Sao. This is a champion I'm not sure what to feel about. I faced him like once. His stats were insane, mainly because I misplayed the lane. Otherwise, I think he probably goes into the top kind of shit or something like that. Maybe below Silas and Akali is fair. Then we have Jorik. And Jorik faces this problem that he can only split push, right? That's his main problem. And when a champion can only split push in a meta where Drakes control the game, you have a problem. I think the champion has the potential to be decent, but he's not that great. He probably go. I mean, he has the same problem as Jax. I think he's better than Jax. He probably goes somewhere around here. But yeah, as I said, he has the same problem as any other split pusher. Like Fiora can team fight, Jax and Jorik definitely can't. Yeah, don't know what else to say. Next up we have Yasuo, and he should not be a top laner, obviously. Or I mean, he should be in this list. I just mean You should not play him in top lane. He should go into torture. He has some decent matchups. I just don't think you should ever pick Yasuo instead of any other champion. Alright, next up we have Yuumi. This champion should be on this list. I haven't put this by accident for once. The thing is with Yuumi, it's that I've seen some insane players, or like this strat where you like start support item and then you just after level 7 or something, you just like run around supporting your jungler an entire game, and it actually has decent win rate. I don't know how, because I haven't studied it at all. But from my understanding, it can be alright, and it can have good win rates. So hence why I put this on this list. Research this before you play it, though. Not like don't just play Yuumi top, please. Otherwise, from what I've understood, it can be good. Maybe even like better than alright, you know. Alright, next up we have Zac. I'm not sure what I feel about Zac. I mean, he's kind of like Shogun and Gragas, right? He's probably a bit worse than him, but I mean, he faces the same problems and he has the same strengths, right? Alright, next up we have 6. He shouldn't be a top laner, and neither should Zoe. These are put here by accident. Sucks, I guess. Unlucky. Next up we have Yone. Now Yone, I haven't seen him in top lane in a long time, but I think he's good. Like, I think he can go somewhere, like, right here. His scale's really insane, and once he gets Berserker creeps, it's actually really hard to trade with him, you know? I don't know what else to say about the champion. I think he can be good. Alright, next up we have Viego. I feel like Viego probably should go into Giga Broken, and so should Gwen as well. I mean, the champions are really strong, obviously. I mean, Viego is definitely worse than Gwen, and he's probably worse than Camille as well, so we're gonna put it like this. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, really. I mean, I feel like this is a fair list for most of the part. I feel like I would change some things. Maybe I would put Rally a bit higher. For example, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like this could be like, I feel like these 4 champions could all perhaps move up here in the right position. But as we said, like Jace, Riven, Gangplank all require fairly high skill, and that was one of the requirements, like Giga Broken, but less obviously. Like Giga Broken, like I feel like Nocturne, Gwen, Viego, and Camille, you can kind of just go into a solo queue game and probably do pretty well, even if you aren't really that great on the champions. But otherwise, I feel like kind of shit and torture, like these could be rearranged a lot. Otherwise, I feel fairly happy with this list. I don't hate this at all. This is my list. Here you can see the not a top laner, never has been champs, and you can see not in solo queue if you want to look at them. Otherwise, I think these 4 champions are probably fairly like the strongest champions right now in top lane, especially for solo queue. I feel like Wukong could maybe moved up a little bit, probably stronger than Tryndamere. Tryndamere might move down a slot. It's hard to say. This is around the estimate. This is what I think is fair. And yeah, anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, then please hit subscribe. Oh my fucking god. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it, obviously. Watch another one of my guides if you want to. Leave a comment what you want to see next. Anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.